Hey everyone, it's Teddy, aka James Kazal on MTGO, coming to you with some replay footage today as I just trophied earlier today and I posted the list to Twitter, as I always do when one of my lists seems to stumble on something. And someone asked me, shout out Maxi Mill, soon the video on YouTube. Unfortunately, I was not recording. I was just kicking back and relaxing last night and this morning. However, some of the games were pretty interesting. I was really on a warpath for the first four, and then the Eldrazi match I think was the most interesting at all. So I thought I'd hop in and just do a little replay, show everyone what it was all like. Let me see here. And just to go over the list quickly, there's nothing too weird about it, except the fact that I'm sticking with 3 frogs. However, I split them 2 main and 1 sideboard, just because you're not going to want Psychic Frog in every matchup. Then the other card I'd like to highlight is Infernal Reckoning. As Eldrazi becomes a bigger threat, this card really does some cool stuff. It's 1 black to exile target colorless creature, and then you gain life equal to its power. So it's kind of like a weird reverse Swords to Plowshares. Really punishes the Eldrazi decks, especially when so many of those matches come down to racing. And you just need 1 extra turn with your evasive flying beater. Yeah, so that's about it. Let's look at the games. I think they're pretty cool. Match 1, we won the die roll, which is awesome. And we see a pretty middling hand. However, the presence of Lightning Bolt makes me feel like I will have enough time to find what I need to get this game won, especially seeing the opponent take a mulligan feels good. Although if I was recording for the channel, well, that's not true. I keep sketchy hands for the channel all the time. But yeah, I'm fine just to fire out this basic mountain and cosplay as something that maybe we are not. And see what develops. I see Verdant Catacombs. So my first thought when I see Verdant Catacombs is Cradle Control. And that basic forest definitely makes me feel like this might be it. Although the presence of no Elvish Reclaimer or no Hierarch is very strange. And I hit my blue mana right on time. I think it was still worth not getting a Psychic Frog right then and there to play around Wasteland. And I see a pretty middling Ponder, but also the presence of Force of Will makes me feel like I should pick that up because I still don't really know what I'm up against. It could be pretty crazy if they have some kind of like Springheart Nantucko or White of the Reliquary that I'm just not really prepared to fight, even though I do have Lightning Bolt for the white. There are ways in which it falls apart. So I'm just ready to pitch Frog if I have to and take this long. Their turn gets pretty interesting though. They play out a snow-covered swamp, so they got snow basics, and then they play Green Sun for 1. So when I saw the basic swamp and the Green Sun for 1, I was like, this is probably Cradle Control, and they're probably going to get an Elvish Reclaimer, and I'll be able to fight that with Lightning Bolt. But then, to my surprise, Veteran Explorer comes out of the Green Sun, which is great for me. Nick Fit is one of our best matchups because we play 5 basic lands, and that's pretty rare for Legacy decks. Nick Fit players really do hate me, or they don't hate me, but I'm sure they always groan a little bit when they get matched up against this brand of Grixis control because, yeah, even though we prioritized a basic in the early game, we're still going to have so many basics to fetch, and it always helps us control the board and do whatever we want. All right, so next I draw Narset. Great draw, but now it's time to cast Psychic Frog. And we'll see if Nick Fit has a lot of recourse for this card. Usually they're trying to go over the top, but a lot of the planeswalkers they tend to run have ways to blow up creatures. Now, I think this is a new tech for Nick Fit. Flare of Cultivation. If you have not seen this card, it's part of the new free spells of Modern Horizons 3. You can sacrifice a non-token green creature, Veteran Explorer, definitely fits that, and then you can search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Put one on the battlefield, one into your hand, so it's like Cultivate. Very strong stuff. So they're getting 3 lands here, which is pretty wild. I get 2 as well, though. Now all of a sudden I'm holding up Kolaghan's Command, which is pretty sweet. They have tons of mana, though. What do they do with that? Oh yeah, they cast Deadly Brew. So this card, I'm not quite sure if it's at Legacy power level. Um, I think if everything goes right, it's still just one for one removal because each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. If you sacrifice a permanent, you get another permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So I think it's, yeah, you can't return the thing you sacrificed, which is interesting. I'm just going to force that and push my frog advantage. They're down to 4 cards in hand. We can probably grind pretty hard here. Thoughtseize was a nice draw. Check out what's going on over there. What brand of Nick Fit? And we see it is Witherbloom, Chain of Smog, Nick Fit. It's unlikely this plan really would have worked because I have so much creature removal in my hand and a lot of mana as well. But still pretty scary. I take Chain of Smog. I'd like them to play into my hand a little bit, and I don't want to get Chain of Smogged because then I'll lose 2 cards. Inherent 2 for 1. And their hand, they probably don't mind just discarding their stuff. I shuffle that because I don't want to draw yet another land, even though Bowmasters would help speed things up a little bit. I think Psychic Frog will do just fine. Now from here, I believe they just drew a lot of lands. There's that Witherbloom Apprentice we knew about. Oh, and also Flare of Cultivation. Yeah, so that I think that qualifies as more lands. So here we just start grinding them out. Their last card in hand is a forest. And now Frog is free to go wild. I think I might have discarded that Underground Sea. Yeah. Speed things up a little bit. You know, just try and get this game over with before they draw something really ruinous, because Nick Fit is known to play a lot of big bombs, and I'm without a Force of Will right now, so I'm pretty vulnerable. Not saying Brainstorm can't uncover one, but, you know, you don't really want to spin for a 3-outer when you're staring down something like Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Orcish Bowmasters is a nice draw, though. That will help speed things up. And I'm planning on using this Lightning Bolt skyward as well. Pillage the Bog. Now this card has showed up in Vintage Cube. I played it a couple times when I was trying to cash out my QPs I could never use. You look at the top X cards of your library, where X is twice the number of lands you control. So they're pretty much looking at their entire deck, if you ask me. They're looking at the top, like, 18 cards of their library and getting one. It's pretty much Demonic Tutor. So they're going to get whatever they want here. Let's see what they get. Garrick Cursed Huntsman. Now that's a Planeswalker, all right. I'm going to look for Force of Will. I find it, but no blue card. Now, if I had made a land drop last turn instead of holding it for Frog, I'm pretty sure that I skipped on a land drop for... Wait, no. That was only turn 5. Never mind. Everything's fine. But yeah, I mess on blue card. There's no blue creature in my graveyard, so I can't K-Command. So I just need to wait and see what they do with this Garrick. I hope they don't make wolves. And fortunately for me, they go after my Psychic Frog. So now I can cast 2 Bowmasters, pick off Garrick with their ETBs, and then when I draw a card, or when they draw a card, I'll get 2 more triggers. So my clock will be pretty solid. And ideally, they just put a lot of really good cards on the bottom of their library, and Garrick was just the most stabilizing thing they found. That was all on their turn as well, so I get to untap and smash for 6, which is pretty good. And now I have Hardcast Force of Will up, so I'm feeling pretty good. Not to mention, if I can just stop what they're doing next turn with this Force of Will, I smash for 6 again. Yeah, I just forced that immediately. But their other card was freaking Green Sun Zenith, so they drew pretty hot off that Garrick. And they're able to get Elder Gargaroth, which is probably the strongest thing in their deck. This card is a pain, because it can gain life. It can make 3 3s, which is crazy. And also can draw a card when it attacks or blocks, and it has Vigilance and Reach, so I can't grab my Psychic Frog and just make a run for the finish that way. So, I need to try and set up a trade here. I just attack in with my army. If they don't block... Oh wait, no, I didn't do that. Huh. Okay. I clearly don't agree with my past self. I think I would have attacked with the army there just to be super proactive and get Frog on the field. Oh, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Okay, so instead I chose to draw step K-Command them to prevent any further madness from happening. And it turned out to be a pretty good call because they drew yet another Pillage the Bog. which would have been essentially another demonic tutor. It's pretty free for them to attack here. What they don't know is that I'm holding lightning bolt. So I will block with my army, take 2 from the trample, and then bolt Elder Gargaroth. And then I'll try to make a game with Psychic Frog here, but it's pretty scary. Because they could top deck some more messed up stuff. I draw Brazen Borrower, which is cool. But yeah, there's nothing really to be done here except cast Psychic Frog and pass. I could have bounced the Beast token with Petty Theft and gotten for 2. But I need to play a little more patiently here. There might be something truly worth bouncing in the future. I get to cast Baleful Strix, and then I get Waterlogged Teachings. My graveyard is flush, so I also get to just easily exile 3 cards and pick up another card with Psychic Frog. I'm feeling pretty rolled up here, but there's still a lot of things that can go wrong, and it's nice to have Waterlogged Teachings. So if they do top deck a bomb, I can cast Waterlogged Teachings, get a Force of Will, then pitch Brazen Borrower. That's not really what's happening here. What happened here? Did they cast... Oh yeah, Liliana Dreadhorde General. So I did have to do exactly what I just outlined, because sacrificing 2 creatures would be really bad, because then they would draw 2 cards. Oh no, it's a creature you control. Okay. That card's not as busted as I thought, but it'd still be a pretty big problem, especially since it creates 2/2s and would have 7 loyalty. So yeah, definitely just force that. And I should be able to crack for lethal here. Just put any card I draw into Frog. Oh no, I drew Snapcaster Mage, so I can be even more cautious than that. I don't need to discard any cards. And unclear if their last card is still Snow-Covered Forest. I don't think it was. But yeah, let's just Bolt, Snap, Bolt, and get on to game number 2. So yeah, we completely got by thanks to Force of Will there. If they were allowed to resolve cards like Dreadhorde General or... what was the other thing? Oh, I think it was like Deadly Brew, right? Yeah. The first Force of Will helped us cement our card advantage with Psychic Frog, and then we were able to stop the Dreadhorde General from doing too much crazy stuff. Although maybe it wouldn't have even been that good. I'm not sure. Anyways, that was game 1. I probably could have let that resolve. Alright, so obviously we're on the draw. I like our hand quite a bit. I think I side out 1 or 2 lands against UNDEFEATED. Yeah, I side out 2 lands because part of their plan, such a central part of their plan is like giving me 2 lands. So I can really, really maximize my top decks in this matchup as well, which is another reason why UNDEFEATED players hate me. What else did I bring in? That's pretty much about it. Right? I think so. Clearly something came in because I cut these 2 lands. Oh, it was definitely the 3rd Psychic Frog. And it was Opposition Agent because they do a lot of searching in their deck. They got Green Sun Zenith, they got Veteran Explorer. What could be better than 2 free basics? How about 4? They cast Vexing Bauble. My rule is that I don't force Vexing Bauble, because most of the decks that proactively cast this card do take a while to get going. Because once you cast Vexing Bauble, you're not getting any fast mana, normally. We're also a Brainstorm deck, so if Force of Will is really looking unappealing, we have the option to shuffle it back into our deck most of the time. Things are lining up real nice for us, though. I'll put Underground Sea in my hand, and then I will pass back to them. Their next play, I believe, was... to play a Swamp and just pass. Now, if I really wanted to turn on Force of Will, I could Kolaghan's Command the Vexing Bauble, or I could cast Orcish Bowmasters, which might cause them to get impatient or get Trigger Finger with their Vexing Bauble, and then sacrifice it to draw a card unpunished under Bowmasters. We have nothing to do. We're just gonna play it safe here. They have Bowmasters, though, so it's really good to know that they're a Bowmasters deck, because it's very possible I could have brainstormed into that, especially with our fetch land. But fortunately, I did not. Because whenever you see a fair black deck, you gotta assume they're playing Orcish Bowmasters. It's just one of the best tools that fair black decks have. Now I get to cast my Bowmasters. And then they cast more Bowmasters. So they're pretty well set up for the Bowmaster mirror. However, we have Kolaghan's Command, which is like even better. So I'm going to take out their army token, which is a 2/2, and return Bowmasters to my hand, which is pretty sweet. And I'm thinking at this point they'll probably use Vexing Bauble, right? Just to get around my Bowmasters, and I'm not exhibiting any kind of forced behavior. But no, they're holding fast, and then they Deadly Brew, so they do get Bowmasters back, and I sacrifice my army. But at the same time, like, I don't mind that much, because for me, going wide with the army is always better than going tall, most of the time. So the fact that I'll get to regenerate it when I cast Orcish Bowmasters, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to see if I can bait out those Bowmasters. They don't bite. So looking at this Brainstorm, it's pretty clear I put one of the Brainstormers back. And then after that, I believe it was Force of Will. Yeah, even though they have really scary cards, they're just not really moving towards them. I'll cast Tamiyo. For some reason at the end of turn, they think it's time. So now their Bowmasters are open to my Bowmasters, which is pretty sweet. They draw a card. Feels like the right time for me to just capitalize on this. They already have a target out. I might as well get the extra punish. And they did not find Bowmasters. They did not find a land either, so I'm feeling pretty good by now. They have a deck full of really expensive cards. I've got a 6-turn clock and card advantage in Tamiyo. Not to mention, I could just flip Tamiyo right now with Brainstorm, and I think I did choose to do that, yeah. Now I don't have to pay mana for my extra value each turn. And these 2 lightning bolts are also making me feel like I can probably finish this game pretty quickly. Pretty easy shuffle off that Ponder, and then I'm thought seizing them to reveal Dead of Winter, Chain of Smog, Professor Onyx, and Leyline of the Void. So pretty easy take of Dead of Winter, so I can continue my clocking. So they untap and cast Leyline of the Void, which is not too much of a concern for me. I already have some pretty cool cards in my graveyard. What I probably should have done is cast one of the lightning bolts face at that point, so I'd have the option to grab it again with Tamiyo, but it's also not such a huge deal. Instead, I can just be super cautious and forget to crack my clue token. I remember last night I was like, no, I need to crack the clue. I forgot and it was too late. Okay, anyways, hitting for 3 here is pretty sweet. Just need to get 2 more good cracks in and we are good to go. I'm going to get my value with Tamiyo because I don't think the game will go long enough for me to get up to the ultimate, and just having the chance to get a free card from your graveyard is very powerful. And then I get to Thoughtseize, take a look at their hand. I'm pretty sure that I took Chain of Smog here. Or what did I do? Yeah, I took Chain of Smog because I think if they draw 2 lanes in a row, they just lose. Especially if they're fetch lands. Even though they did play a fetch land, I have full information. It's time to just cast Opposition Agent. I'm not going to try and get them when they crack and then activate Opposition Agent. It's time to just swoop in, deal 6 on the ground, and then 6 on the stack with 2 lightning bolts. They don't even activate though, so I think they're pretty resigned here. Yep, just attack in, and then bolt. And that was match number 1. Nick Fit, not really a meta deck, but certainly one that utilizes powerful legacy level interactions. I think it's a deck that has come and gone through the ages, and you can probably do just fine with it if you get your reps and know your matchups, because what it's doing on its face is pretty powerful, especially if you're able to synergize with cards that actively want to sacrifice your own creatures. I've seen versions with Academy and Arena Rectors. Having this combo of Chain of Smog and Witherbloom Apprentice baked in doesn't seem as viable to me as like the Academy Rector ones, although that could be just like taking a lot of collateral since a lot of Grave Hate's flying around the meta thanks to Riskaminator. And yeah, to that end, we did have a Cling to Dust in our hand. So really cool deck. Loved seeing it. Good luck to my opponent, and I'd love to see Nick fit again because it's one of my better matchups. Now, I'm not sure how the pairing works in the MTGO leagues, but it seems like once you get to 1-0, that's when the competition gets really fierce. At least I feel like most of my toughest matches have been the second match of a league. We have a okay hand. Opponent mulled to 6. We're happy to see that. We exchange some friendly banter, which is always nice to start a match like that, just because when you're facing someone faceless, it's really easy for frustration and animosity to come up, and that doesn't exist in paper. And furthermore, they say they love the YouTube videos, which was very heartening to hear and made me very happy. However, we see a ponder with no lands in it, which is really all we need, so that's an easy shuffle. Now we see them cast Underground Sea and nothing else. So this could be a lot of things. We're not quite sure. It could be Grixis control. Who knows? The mulligan is a little suspect. We didn't exactly hit a land. We hit Waterlogged Teachings, but that at least lets us make a land drop. And now we're just holding up Brainstorm and hoping nothing too bad happens. So they play Polluted Delta, and then they Brainstorm, and I'm starting to think like, they said they're a fan. Are they playing Grixis control? They fetch another Underground Sea, and they ponder. I'm like, well, it's still... The 2 Underground Sea is not what I've been on recently, but still could be Grixis control. I'm going to Brainstorm at the end of turn. I just need to move some things around. There's no guarantee I'll have enough mana to do that on a future turn. And we do see some lands. No way to shuffle, unfortunately. But I'm going to play that Volcanic Island. And we're going to sit back. It's tempting to play a proactive threat like Baleful Strix or Psychic Frog there. But we don't know what's going on. They could be playing Doomsday, for goodness sakes. Next, they play Misty Rainforest and activate it. They have 3 Underground Seas. At this point, I'm like, okay, this does seem kind of like Doomsday or Scam. And yeah, there's Psychic Frog, which I guess could still be Doomsday, right? But then they discard a Grief, and I'm like, okay, this is certainly Scam. Then they move to reanimate it. With 3 cards in hand, I'm fairly certain this Cling to Dust will work. And it does. So thank goodness for that. Scary that they have Psychic Frog, though. So I think I need to Brainstorm again. And even though I know the top card of my library, try and move some things around, see if I can recalibrate. Okay. I think what I did here is just put the 2 lands back again with the idea that I will ponder and likely shuffle away that Undercity Sewers. Yep. Yeah, I think I shuffled that. Yes, okay. Then I see Thoughtseize, which is like, that would be great if I wasn't so choked on black mana. I can't afford to let this frog hit me, so if they have force, they have force, but they didn't force my Cling to Dust on Reanimate, which I think most Scam players would have done. And yeah, had a feeling that would work. And the pressure is off, and we are up on cards. However, they do have lines that can just end the game right now if they Entomb Reanimate. They do have Reanimate. They get their Psychic Frog back, but they don't have the Entomb, so that's really nice for us. So we play our own Psychic Frog. We could have played Baleful Strix there, but that is a little fragile to lines like Orcish Bowmasters and stuff like that. Unfortunately, they do have Petty Theft. And we have nothing to say about that. They are going to get an attack in, and we can feel ourselves falling behind a little bit. I have no play at the end of turn. Maybe I should have played Snapcaster Mage and just get some kind of pressure going. And then somehow Undercity Sewers returned, which is kind of rough. At this point, I'm kind of feeling like they maybe don't have a better answer to a creature than Petty Theft, so I think I did cast Baleful Strix at this point. Yeah, that's right. And there's also the chance that I could like top deck a Black Source and cast Psychic Frog as well. They have Force Will though, so much for that plan. Instead, I'll play Undercity Sewers and put that Polluted Delta right in the graveyard. and try and figure out how in the world I'm going to come back after this Psychic Frog has drawn 2 cards. Them 2 for winning themselves with the Force of Will mollifies that a little bit, but we're not in good shape. They add to the pressure further by casting Brazen Borrower, so I'm getting hit for 4 at least. And they find a Wasteland and another Psychic Frog. They're down to 1 card, so Lightning Bolt at least will take out a Frog, but we're not in good shape. Furthermore, if their last card is Daze, I can't even Snap Edict. Well, I can't Snap Edict anyways because I have Brazen Borrower. So my only choice really is to play my own Psychic Frog and try and recoup some of the card advantage. Huh. It's a crazy spot. It's a really crazy spot. And I'm wondering what they're going to do. There's a lot of ways this falls apart even further for me. Like if they just find some way to deal with my Psychic Frog, swing in and draw 2 cards, it's insane. They swing out, so I block one of them, and it's time to play chicken. This will all fall apart if their last card is an answer to Psychic Frog. But it's not, so I go in a little deeper. I say, okay, well, now I can beat your frog in combat. And they dare me to discard my last card, and so I do it. They discard 2 Animate Dead, so they figure going after Baleful Strix is not good right now, especially when I have Cling to Dust in the graveyard. So yeah, I'm cool just losing 2 creatures to take out their frog and also Animate Dead. Both Animate Deads. I dropped to 13, but now I have a pretty big creature, and I think that attack kind of changed the tides of battle a little bit. Bowmasters was an incredible draw. I'm free to attack here. I find Force of Will. I'm going to see if I can get them to cast Brainstorm or something on their main phase. Really get lucky. Doesn't happen. I can't afford to take 3 though, so cast Orcish Bowmasters, hit Brazen Borrower, and then see if they'll let me block. They don't. They jump their frog. But at the least, that will give me a trigger from Orcish Bowmasters. Before damage, they discard Troll of Khazad-dûm. They recognize that they need to try and end this game quickly, and that dealing 1 damage is not going to do it. So yeah, 2 is quite a bit more than 1. I'm just going to send that trigger right at them. And all of a sudden, I have quite the board presence. Petty Theft. I'm not sure what their last card can be. I hope it's not another Petty Theft, but like 3 Brazen Borrowers main board seems pretty excessive. So I'm just going to Force a Will. Their last card was Psychic Frog, so I could see them possibly blocking with that this turn. I think that's what happened. I'll also attack with the army token, but not my Bowmasters. Even though it does kind of... I think it would be unwise for them to block Bowmasters when they could be getting hit for 4 and me drawing a card. I think that's a lot of ground to concede. And yeah, they just take the jump block there and fall to 8. They draw a Wasteland, so that feels like it's pretty rolled up for us. I go after my own graveyard here because you can't really Cling to Dust an opponent's graveyard when they have Psychic Frog active, unfortunately. See, I think I just hit my Scalding Tarn. Yep, just draw an extra card. It's Brazen Borrower, that's a nice draw. They need to draw pretty well here. I don't think they can afford to hold back, right? Well, I guess they have some lines that are like pretty explosive, like Entomb, Reanimate. But yeah, we got there. We just bounced the frog and swinging for lethal. Very scrappy game. I mean, that's how our Scamnator always goes, I feel like. Coming back for the second game here, we look at our opening hand and are like, yeah, that's great. As long as they don't have a really fast Entomb Reanimate, we'll be in great shape. And yeah, their first turn consists of a Ponder, which is great. They're not putting anything in the graveyard to reanimate. We draw a basic Swamp, which is like not bad. Could be a lot worse. So we're going to Ponder and try and set up our game going forward. And we see a lot of good stuff in there. I'm going to put the Psychic Frog in my hand. It's pretty interchangeable. Both cards are really good in the matchup, and if they were to, say, grief us, I think I'd rather them see the 2 Psychic Frogs than the 2 Orcish Bowmasters and make less of an informed decision there. Alright, they play Undercity Sewers and do not keep their Surveil. They put Underground Sea in the graveyard and then they just pass back to us. So we're feeling pretty set up, but we do want to play around Daze. That's one way we can give up some value here, and we just want to really stay on top of all our cards and try and invalidate as many of theirs as possible, because Riscaminator is brutally efficient, and you really gotta squeeze every little bit of value that you can. They play Swamp, and now they have a Psychic Frog that they likely had last turn, but maybe couldn't play because Undercity Sewers enters the battlefield tapped. Now, speaking of not giving any grounded days, I decided to do this to draw it out of their hands so I could have a unencumbered turn next turn. Now we have our Psychic Frog in. If they want to go all in on theirs, that they can beat ours in combat. They also have a Wasteland, so now our frogs are kind of staring at each other, but they also have a Petty Theft. So I'm feeling a little behind now. But I have a feeling that there's going to be some way I can catch up. But the fact that their frog drew a card is very bad, obviously. Now we drew Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt's pretty good at doing some sneaky stuff in frog mirrors. It's worth 2 cards at least. Now their first thing that they did was Brainstorm. Unable to catch that with our Bowmasters. And then they fetched, so they threw some cards back, and then they attack. So I was like, alright, well, I'm down to start this fight. You have too many cards in hand, and I have probably a lot that I'm not going to be able to cash out, so let's try and get this game more low resource in general, and I think I can out-top deck them. Lower Revealed goes first, obviously. And yeah, they're dropping cards. Okay, so next, I believe I dropped the second Psychic Frog. Oh no, Brainstorm first. Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Frog after that, though, right? Yep, there goes their Sewers. Oh no, Bowmasters. Okay. I don't agree with myself, apparently. And then at that point, they're like, okay, no more. Let's just let that battle end there. And then they play Bowmasters. At that point, I'm just going to bolt their frog. So that ended wonderfully for me. And now they're going to point a Bowmaster's trigger at my frog. I'm more than happy to lose my last card and have my frog survive. Now, even though connecting with Psychic Frog will give them an Orcish Bowmaster trigger, it's pretty important to win this race right now. I'm just drawing a lot of lands, unfortunately, so I do need to dodge removal. I'll play 1 out, and then I need to get 2 more attacks in. They find a Brainstorm, which is like really scary, because obviously there's a lot of cards in their deck that can fight Psychic Frog. Unfortunately, their first Reanimate has to go after my graveyard, and then I'm just able to blank that pretty easily with Psychic Frog. And then they have a second Reanimate that goes after their Psychic Frog, so they have that back. Kind of scary. But unless they want to jump with the Psychic Frog, we're in pretty good shape here. No point in jumping it. They'll just jump it in return. And yeah, they don't block. So we're in pretty good shape here. Especially with that draw of Tamiyo. Drop Tamiyo in. And see what they do. Okay, they choose to solely attack with the army token. So it's pretty easy for me to just take that hit. Now I need to find a way through So if I jump the frog, I have to contend with Brazen Borrower and Psychic Frog. If I don't, I have to contend with Bowmasters and Frog on the ground. Um, Attacking on the ground is a lot more appealing because Brazen Borrower seems like the most expendable creature here. Shieldred Edict is a nice draw. I'm feeling like in response to them casting Brazen Borrower, I can get them to sacrifice one of these creatures. And yeah, they cast Brazen Borrower here. Unfortunately, it can't block because I did not give Psychic Frog flying. I did not cast Edict in response, though, because, yeah, it just doesn't change this equation. Maybe I should have, though. Yeah, I think I probably should have cast Edict right there. Because now they just drop Brazen Borrower, no problem. Yep. Alright, so we got set back a little bit there. And they have Animate Dead, we have Cling to Dust, and that's good enough for them. Because, yeah, now at this point I can jump my frog and swing in for lethal. So, yeah, nice little defeat of Riscaminator there. It's the best deck in the format, but there are definitely progressions where we can keep up with it and even outclass it. At this point, I was starting to feel like I was maybe on a little bit of a roll. I had not dropped a single game, and I opened a hand with 3 lands, Kolaghan's Command, and Force Blue card. So I was feeling real good, especially when my opponent drops a Chromox, which is most indicative of Red Stompy or Initiative or some other kind of aggressive deck where Force of Will ends up real nice. And yeah, they cast Chalice on 1, I believe, and I'm allowed to just ignore that because I have Kolaghan's Command and Force of Will. I immediately draw a 1-drop. That is okay. We'll be fine. They follow up with Magus of the Moon, which I also just let resolve, but I'm feeling like they're going to be pretty freaking suspicious if they cast an actual Blood Moon and I have to force that. But for the meantime, I can keep up my my vexing style of play here. And they do have the actual Blood Moon, so yeah, I do need to force that, unfortunately. And here comes Magus of the Moon. I believe I drew Brainstorm. No, it was Snapcaster Mage. Any old blue card is nice here. So the plan is to shock Magus of the Moon, shatter Chalice of the Void, and then cast a Psychic Frog, protected by Force of Will, and just kind of run away with the game at that point. But then they cast Goblin Rabblemaster, and that card is so scary because it generates quite a bit of value, so instead I have to shock that and then shatter the Chalice. A new plan is to bolt Magus of the Moon there, and then cast Psychic Frog. And I still get my Force of Will. I draw Sink into Stupor. Not a bad draw, but honestly, you should probably just hang on to it to pitch to Force of Will, and then I can use Snapcaster Mage for something else. They draw City of Traders, and then they cast Chalice of the Void on 1. Sorry, that went really fast. And then they cast Goblin Rabblemaster, which is very much worth a Force of Will. Got them to 0 cards in hand. Their Chalice is back, though, which is a little unfortunate, but I don't think we'll be needing 1-drops. If we draw any, I'll just increase Psychic Frog's power. I draw Shieldred's Edict, which is great. And then, yeah, there's the Brainstorm I was thinking about. From here, it's pretty straightforward. They drop War Boss. I Edict. Haven't seen War Boss in these lists in a long time, but it's certainly really powerful. It's kind of like Goblin Rabblemaster's 5 through 8. Just a really powerful effect. Puts on a really fast clock. Not quite as fast as Rabblemaster, but it spreads the power and toughness out more, which is, you could argue, is it's different, you know. I untap and then they concede. I'm just kind of ahead on cards in hand, and Psychic Frog just cements such an advantage when you untap with it, and it is uncontested. So then I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, maybe I'm unstoppable. Who knows? I open my hand. It's pretty much almost exactly the same as the last one, right? It has like an awesome threat, basic swamp, force blue card. Like, what could go wrong? Opponent also keeping 7, those kind of rough. And then they play Cavernous Souls, which is kind of strange because I'm like, okay, well, I've erroneously identified the initiative in the past as Red Prison, ignoring Cavernous Souls, but then they put it on Goblin. So I'm wondering if this is like a turbo Rabblemaster kind of deck. I see Basic Island, so I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll keep this, even though it's a little middling. This will let me ignore Blood Moon, and then I'll put Lorien Revealed in my hand, because that is what I'd want to pitch. I want to hang on to Consign to Memory, just in case they tap, like, play the One Ring or something like that. But yeah, I think right now on this turn they played a Goblin Rabblemaster, which I didn't have anything to say about. Yeah. Force of Will doesn't quite work when your opponent has Cavern of Souls. So yeah, they create a Goblin token, and here it comes. I get hit for 1. It's rough. So right now my plan is to ambush this Rabblemaster in combat. Then I'll draw Basic Islands so I can cast Psychic Frog and hold up Consign to Memory. That's the plan anyways. But my opponent was not done doing crazy stuff, and they cast another Rabblemaster. These things add up like crazy. It's making 2 tokens per turn, and I'm like, okay, I probably can't beat this aggro without Lightning Bolt. I didn't find a Lightning Bolt or anything like that, so I can probably safely feel like I should devote my energy to game 3, but I'm going to do my best here. So I do one of my normal Bowmaster versus Red Prison play patterns, which is take out their army token and then double block their Master to take it out. But they're still way ahead on board. They have 2 1/1s and it's still a Goblin Rabblemaster as well, so I'm feeling pretty bad. This Force Will doesn't seem like it's ever going to line up. The only spells they've cast so far have been uncounterable. But I'm like, they can't possibly have more Rabblmasters, right? I'm going to brainstorm and try and find my way out of this. I don't really find my way out of it. Pretty easily put back Lorien Revealed and then Kolaghan's Command because I can't cast that this turn. And I'll just have to do the same play. They'll be left with 2 Goblin tokens, but hopefully they're just not strong enough to beat Bowmasters. Or, I mean, Psychic Frog. Then they play Broadside Bombardiers, which is also uncounterable. Everything is just kind of tough to combat. They have a very strong aggressive progression here. So yeah, now in order to beat this Rabblemaster in combat, not only do I need to ping the Rabblemaster, but I need to double block it. So Bombardiers has no way of ruining that combat for me, which means taking a ton of damage. Bombardiers just kind of makes combat unwinnable. There's just so many different ways it can trump your blocks, invalidate your blocks, and the fact that it itself has menace makes blocking it and beating it in combat almost impossible unless you have a very impressive board, and then they probably shouldn't be attacking anyways. So yeah, we're down to 7. They just throw the Rabblemaster at our face, which lets us keep our Bowmasters, which is really good for us actually. Now we have K Command. It's pretty clear what we need to do here. We play this, throw that in the trash, hopefully draw Lightning Bolt, and now we are going to get our Bowmasters back and destroy Broadside Bombardiers and try and hold the ground here. See if this Force of Will ever lines up, but I'm having my doubts. All right. Once they tapped this Cavern for Goblins again, I was like, oh my god, this is just relentless. This is relentless. If I had Lightning Bolts instead of this Force of Will, everything would be so different. And even worse, it's another Bombardiers. The card is very hard to beat for all the reasons I just said. And here they come again. Now, I think the most damage-saving way here is to double block the Bombardiers. It can't fling itself. And if they want to save the Bombardiers in combat, they'll have to throw one of these tokens coming at me at one of these blockers. So it's very helpful for us. And yeah, they see that line. They throw one of the tokens at one of my goblins, so this becomes a chump block. But I save myself quite a bit of damage, which is nice. And then, finally, we were due to find Lightning Bolt mathematically exactly at that card, actually. I have 4, and that was the 15th card of the deck. So, perfect. Both the Bombardiers, feeling great. Play Psychic Frog. I've got a blocker. It's time to start turning the corner here, and I figure they must have at least a few lands in their hand at this point. They haven't played a land for a long time, but that's because they have City of Traders out, and that would further developing those lands would mean they'd have to sacrifice their City of Traders. So that's what I'm banking on here. Furthermore, I have Consigned to Memory. Hopefully that will do something. And they have Sting Scourger. So this card will push a lot of damage. I don't want them to bounce the Psychic Frog, so I decided to just cast Consigned to Memory on that trigger, even though it's not very value positive, obviously. But yeah, I just need to retain my board advantage and keep going here. I draw Brainstorm, so that's pretty sweet. I find a lot of good stuff. I get yet another blocker, and if this didn't have Echo, maybe I'd bolt it. But yeah, I highly doubt that they would pay for the Echo. I get to draw a card here too. So now I still get to hold up Force. Even though it's been completely useless. I've had to fight my way through Bombardiers and Rabble Masters the hard way until I found that Lightning Bolt. That was sweet. So yeah, they can't pay for Echo. That goes away. And now they're finally ready to commit another land. They pick Wizard this time, so I'm anticipating Majesty of the Moon to entering the battlefield here any second. Yep, there it is. Now, I'm pretty sure they attacked with their goblins. Yeah, so pretty easily just firing these Bowmasters here, take one out, and that's enough for them. Their last 4 cards must have been not very relevant, and yeah, at this point, their Caverns are off thanks to Magus. I can just keep Magus on the field and kind of neutralize it by blocking with Tamiyo if I want, which turns my Force of Will on. There's a lot of ways I can play this going forward. So I was like, cool, wow, I'm 3-0-6-0. What's going to happen next? Jumping into the 4th match, I like my hand again. And I'm able to just do an Island Ponder at the outset here. Looking for lands. I don't see any, so I shuffle that. Or wait, maybe I kept that Force of Will? I did keep, because I have Lorien Revealed in hand. I don't have to worry about getting strip mined in this format. And if I did, I think Sink into Stupor would do in a pinch. And then my opponent, I believe, yeah, played a Delver of Secrets, so pretty clearly up against Grixis Delver. Rug Delver is not so much of a thing anymore, as Delver is now leveraging Psychic Frog instead of Questing Druid. Pretty easily just cast Tamiyo here. If I get Dazed, it's not a huge deal. Hoping this Delver does not flip, and then I can bolt it. If I dodge Wasteland, I'm also dodging... if I'm not dodging Wasteland, I'm dodging Psychic Frog, among other things, so... this all plays out pretty well for me. I just need to hope my life total holds out. And most of the time it will. I do not block. It is not worth it. And I'm going to untap with Tamiyo, which is pretty sweet. I also find Kolaghan's Command. Very nice. The first thing I do is make sure I get some value with Tamiyo, though. Create a clue token. And then I cast Brainstorm, because I can look for a land this way, and also trigger Tamiyo. And I hit very well. It's pretty easy to put back one of the duplicates. Casting 2 Kolaghan's Command is going to be difficult, and also casting 2 Forces is a good way to lose. I don't want to 2-for-1 myself twice against Delver. But yeah, we go up with Tamiyo, play that Mire, and then just bolt Delver. It does not work though, they have Force of Will. I'm not going to force back, and instead I think I try to redraw the Kolaghan's Command I put on top. Although I should probably look for a land, right? I might have played this a little risky. If I want to play around Daze, I could just cast Shield's Edict though, and then also maybe Surveil at the end of turn. They have Unholy Heat. I'm willing to let that go. It's at this point it's like gain me 3 life. It's created a clue token. Traded for Unholy Heat. That's fine with me. I don't want to cast Force of Will. trying to hold on to that for as long as possible. And then, yeah, I surveilled, looking for a land here. And I find one. It's basic island. Throw that on top. And now I'm going to K command, have them discard, and, or no, I pick up Tameo, that's right. I think that's a little better. They're likely to have some cards I'm going to try and invalidate. And Daze being one of them, but I walked into it that time. But this way, instead of just having them discard the Daze with my Kolaghan's command, I get them to also go down on a land drop, which is pretty good. Forget what they did here. They cast a Murktide Regent. So I'm not going to force the Murktide Regent, obviously, but I'm going to Edict it. And if they fight over the Edict, then I will force that. And at this point, my opponent, we have some friendly banter here. I'll say almost everyone in the Legacy queues is a lot of fun and just really enjoys playing the format. And they are not done deploying threats. They have Psychic Frog, but I want to hang on to this force for as long as I possibly can. Pretty easily just go for another Edict. Gotta try and keep the board clear. Got to. And then I can ponder. I have a new blue card. Seeing my own Psychic Frog is pretty sweet. It's time to start thinking about winning this game, but not before really getting my feet underneath me. I'm putting Cling to Dust underneath that. And whatever they saw didn't feel like they could keep up with my ponder that I kept. So yeah, that was game one. It's pretty easy for Delver to fall behind in that matchup, unfortunately. And opened up yet another good hand. I don't think I've had to mulligan once in this league so far. It's been pretty fire. Unfortunately, my opponent's down to 5, and when Delver mulligans to 5 on the play, if you have any kind of removal, it's a very lopsided matchup. Furthermore, they have no pressure. They ponder. They don't shuffle, which is good news, but you really want to start the clock immediately. I'm free to ponder here, and I see everything I could ever want. I've got 2 answers for Psychic Frog, and then they also double as answers to Delver's Secrets. And having Cling to Dust and Nihil Spellbound coming up will make Murktide Regent very difficult to cast, and Dragon's Rage Channeler a bit anemic as a threat. So they play out a couple Baubles and a Delver of Secrets. I'm guessing that is what they found with their Ponder. Now, with the help of Mishra's Bauble, they can flip Delver and really get to work. But like I said, I have a good amount of removal here, and I should be able to keep this under control, and so far so good. And I see even more good stuff. I see another 1-mana removal spell in Fatal Push. That one's very universal. Takes out Psychic Frog, Delver, and Dragon's Rage Channeler. And then Kolaghan's command is great as well. Another Cling to Dust is also great. We're just feeling completely rolled up here. They have a Wasteland, but after they've mulled to 5, I don't really mind trading Wasteland like that. I should be able to find more land eventually, and I have plenty of cards to keep me alive in the meantime. I'm not pushing any damage, which is unfortunate, but I'm also just fine to activate this right now. Draw a card. I have Psychic Frog finally. I moved that to the bottom with both Ponders just because I wanted to make sure I was really set up before casting it or exhaust their interaction in other ways. But now I'm feeling pretty ready to cast Psychic Frog now that they're back down to 5 cards in hand and a lot of game has happened. There's Dragon Rage Channeler. And Orcish Bowmasters. It's pretty tempting to actually go after that. If they daze, they're down to 0 lands again, just really stymieing their development. And yeah, they're also very, very low on cards in graveyards, so Delirium is like very far away. Then we got hit for one, which is pretty normal. Pretty normal for Delver to just deal some damage. I hit a land, which is great. Now I don't need to worry about days or anything like that. And they cast Psychic Frog. I'm being super cautious here. Just kind of letting things fall apart around them. I grab Barbass out of the graveyard and line up a block with DRC. So now I got Snapcaster Mage to trade for both of their creatures. Feeling like I think I've done enough groundwork, right? You'd think, but no, I'm still just completely trying to grind out my opponent before I even commit the first threat, apparently. I guess last night, yeah, I'm having a bit of incongruity here, mental incongruity, but I guess I'm just feeling like playing more aggressively today than yesterday. I was really trying to set up a hard lock here. They have another frog. I might have even bolted here. Oh yeah, they didn't even fight over that. And they concede after that. Yeah, I guess that would have been a tough decision because you gotta assume I have in my 6 card hand another way to deal with Psychic Frog. So do you just like let Bolt take out Psychic Frog when it theoretically shouldn't, or do you lose your last 2 cards and get me to commit another removal spell? Just a really tough spot for the opponent. So yeah, we're just completely dominating. At this point, we are 4-0, 8-0, and we're at that point I was really exhausted though. It was getting pretty late at night, so I think I just went to bed and fired up the final match first thing in the morning, and it was a pretty interesting one. Perfectly fine hand. I have no idea what I'm up against. And then I have every idea what I'm up against. Devourer of Destiny is revealed. 2 of them, in fact. So my hand is not that great against Eldrazi. Even though Baleful Strix can be like a nice roadblock, they have a lot of ways of dealing with creatures now, between Kozilek's Command and the cast trigger on Devourer of Destiny. And once I see them exiling Ancient Tomb, Thought-Knot Seer, Glaring Flesh Raker, it seems like they have just everything set up here. Pretty happy to see a Stilling Myco spawn go, though. That's 2 Flesh Rakers gone. But every card in this deck is so powerful. Then they lead on Wasteland, though, which is interesting to me. Alright, I draw Basic Island. Not very exciting. But now I'll cast Baleful Strix, just set up my roadblock, draw a card. Hitting another land is pretty rough. So I was feeling like, this might be a little hard to overcome. I'm not clocking, and clocking with Frog is not very attractive anyways, because Devourer of Destiny can really undo a lot of your hard work. When it exiles a frog you put a lot of investment into, via cast trigger no less. They play Glaring Flesh Raker, and they also have a Lotus Petal, so they immediately get some value off of that. Ideally, I like to hold Edict for a later creature because Flesh Raker is defeatable by even Kolaghan's Command. But there's really only one thing to do right now, and it's try to cement my card advantage, make a lot of land drops, and try and pull ahead. Looking at this spread, I think I took Brainstorm. Yeah, because I have some lands, and there's no guarantee I'm not going to draw a bunch more, so having the option to rearrange my hand is going to be very important. I think they cast Thought-Knot Seer here. No, they have a Kozilek's Command. Almost worse in some ways, because they clear my Strix. They make even more spawns. I take damage, and they can attack Narset, so I don't get my second Azcanta activation. I draw Waterlogged Teachings, which is like fine, but it's probably going to be too slow. My Brainstorm sees 2 more lands. Still no Lightning Bolt. Feeling very discouraged. And almost like I might lose the first match of this league. And yeah, they just cast a Devour of Destiny here. Taking out that Narset's not really a big deal. I wasn't really banking on using that for anything else. I guess it gets in the way of Kozilek's command somehow if they cast it on my turn or on their own turn. But in general, they don't really mind Narset all that much. They do have a 6/6. Basically, the plan right now is to ambush Glaring Fleshraker and then Edict the Devourer, at which point there will be another Devourer to deal with. They cast Kozilek's command though, so the ambush failed. Was not really counting on them having another one of those so soon, especially when I thought I knew their hand. But there we are. I think I cast a Cling to Dust because I really need to try and force this. I do not succeed in finding that. So yeah, things are bad. Things are very bad. My ambush failed. All I can really do is ponder. Still need to just try and find some way to get rid of the Fleshraker so I can Edict and then hopefully snap Edict the other Devourer. Miss again though. We're just having a horrible time. But I ponder because now I can shuffle and then ponder again. Hopefully find a freaking lightning bolt at some point. Still no. Still no. And I find Brainstorm. So yeah, we're in real tough shape here. Everything has kind of failed, and I'm starting to feel like maybe I'm not so invincible. Maybe I'm not gonna 5-0 10-0 this league, unfortunately, because yeah, we're not running well. We're running quite poor. I'm gonna Edict in response. They're gonna drop Fleshraker, and now they just have these 2 giant 6/6s to contend with, unfortunately. That's right. We finally hit the lightning bolt. It's a complete insult. So now we Brainstorm, and we do see a way out of this. We can snap Edict one of the Devourers and then Bolt the other one. But for now, we do need to stay alive. So we're going to cast Strix. Maybe trade for one of the Devourers that way, but we know that's not super reliable. But even if they do remove the Baleful Strix, we can cast Orcish Bowmasters and block both of them. Wastegate Battle Mage, yeah. This card is super busted. It can do a Petty Theft impression with one half the kicker, and then the other half it can do a disenchant kind of thing. It's pretty rough. And that's one part, like I feel like that's one scenario where Baleful Strix being an artifact is really holding it back. And then on top of that, they have Eldrazi Linebreaker. So if I want to even survive, I need to expend one of these lightning bolts that I was saving for the Devour of Destinies. So yeah, we're in tough shape here. Gotta cast Bowmasters just to survive here. And I'm not counting on them being F6'd. And if they sacrifice their spawn in response, I just lose. So it would have been nice to know that. Alright, we're not dead yet. Bolt the Battle Mage. Edict the Devourer. They draw nothing but lands for the rest of the game. And I draw land and can get Waterlogged Teachings for my other Edict. Yeah. And then I keep drawing perfectly after that, we'll be okay. But they immediately top deck Linebreaker. What can you do? We ran very poorly in the first half of the game, and they continued their lead throughout the second half, and were able to convert. It's a very powerful deck, and if you're not running consistent, you better hope that they're being very inconsistent. So at that point, I was like, oh, crap. Well, we get a lot better post-sideboard, like we get Infernal Reckoning, like that card I pointed out in the beginning, we get Consigned to Memory, we can drop things like Cling to Dust that aren't very impactful for the matchup, and Thoughtseize and Narset. but still a pretty scary matchup. So I'm feeling a little discouraged, but um, I know if I at least can't finish this 5-0, 10-0, maybe I can finish it 5-0, 10-1. All right, see a very great hand here, and then something weird happened at the beginning. It said someone named Tester John started watching the match, and then they left the match right away. So opponent was like, "Who's Tester John?" And I said, "No clue, but that's weird." And we both thought it was kind of weird. I don't know if both of us immediately suspected the other of spying, but I was pretty sure that um, league matches were not allowed to be spectated. I know you can watch matches in the tournament practice room, but I didn't know you could do it in league play. In fact, I don't. It should not be allowed. That would be uh, cheating because there's money on the line. You can easily have someone in cahoots. So yeah, I said screenshotted, and Ice9 also screenshot. I'm sure it's just someone who works for Wizards or something like that, but still strange. I have a pretty good turn one play here. Slamio. And then I send it back there. But yeah, Lightning Bolt for the early Eldrazi, Infernal Reckoning for the big ones like Devour of Destinies last game. Could have really flipped that race if I had Infernal Reckoning. They have Kozilek's Command off the bat, which is rough, but I mean, it could be worse. It is a 2-for-1 off the bat, but they had to use a Lotus Petal to do it, so it kind of feels like parody in some ways. The bad news is that they scried one to the top, so whatever they found, I'm going to have to contend with something strong. I draw Badlands, which is like, okay, not super exciting though. I just send it back. All right. What was their next line here? Can't remember. I think they just like played a creature or something. Replay function's kind of not working. Yeah, they just cast a Repurposer, which is quite a strong card. Get a lot of value off of it. And in an effort to keep the board clear, I bolt it, and then I just make a land drop and send it back. If I can snap bolt something here, that'd be pretty cool, because then I can start attacking. And they have Myco Spawn, which is real rough. I just let that happen. And then they also Wasteland me, which is crazy. A lot of bad stuff happening. I decided to hold on a Snapcaster Mage because maybe I can use Infernal Reckoning on the snapback to make things like a lot stronger. It's a much stronger card than Bolt in the matchup anyways, so keep Snapcaster Mage around. I see Brainstorm, and I put that on top because I need to find something here. But I'm feeling pretty under the gun at this point. I choose not to Brainstorm at this point, though. They have Devour of Destiny that they play just naked, which is fine. Actually, really good for me. I think they're just trying to put pressure on, but it walked right into Infernal Reckoning, and I get to gain 6 life, which is really great for these aggressive matchups. Then I draw another Lightning Bolt, which is like fine. Time to Brainstorm. I see a way to shuffle and Baleful Strix. So pretty clearly, I think I put back Ponder and Bolt. Yeah, then I get to shuffle, cast a Baleful Strix. The island is not too exciting, but having a way to push damage is exciting. So they drew Wastecape Battle Mage, which is really rough because it's a 2-2 that attacks pretty solid. And then it also exiles my Baleful Strix, which is a big bummer. So yeah, they had a Strix of their own in some ways. I draw Opposition Agent though, so now I'm hoping they activate Eye of Ugin, so I can really get them with that. They play Ancient Tomb, so they're almost ready to go, but then I figure it's probably better to start pushing damage. And I can't just sit around and wait for them to get to 7 mana. They have 6 right now, so yeah, I'm not going to sit around and wait. Better to start attacking, and good thing I did, because I drew Psychic Frog. Very proactive threat. This will also make future stealing Myco spawns a lot worse, because it is not a May on that card. I just keep drawing better and better. Consign to Memory makes me feel pretty safe, and also makes me feel pretty comfortable investing into Psychic Frog if I ever have spare cards, but right now I need every single one I've got. Now I could have just cleared the way with Snap removal spell on the Wastegate Battle Mage, but it's starting to feel like I should probably be a little more cautious. And they continue to flood, which is good for us. Did not happen last game, notably, but this deck does run a lot of lands. It has to, and or else it'd be mulliganing a bunch. And that helps us out this time. Okay, they take the block. Now that I have a card, I feel free to discard. Instead of trying to spin up a removal spell from Psychic Frog, I'm happy to just offer the jump block and they take it in response for a card out of my hand. Okay, Line Breaker is a little scary. I'm going to take a Bolt, even though maybe it would have been better to just use Infernal Reckoning on it, because it might be a while before I find like a Kolaghan's Command or something like that, and the life gain would be nice. But yeah, I decided to play to that game, and now I'm clocking pretty significantly here. I could probably win next turn even. There's Wastegate Battle Mage. And instead of using Consign to Memory on this triggered ability, I decided to just let it happen. Even though it does halt my progress for a little bit, there's more devastating things that I should be trying to hit with Consign. I also hit Brainstorm, which is really sweet, and I find just everything I could want here. I offer this trade. We don't take it. So now Lightning Bolt can be used to end the game next turn. I even get to ignore Glaring Fleshraker, which is crazy. So yeah. Well, no, actually, it turns out I don't ignore it. Yeah, maybe I just Edicted and then swung in. There we go. Okay. So that one was quite a slog and took a long time to fight through, but we got there eventually. And now there's one more climactic game. Trophies on the line. I'm on the draw, which is not where you want to be against Eldrazi. But like I said, I have some really good tools like Infernal Reckoning. And I see, honestly, a pretty scary hand. But we got Force of Will. We got a Scaling Threat. And yeah, ways to protect it with Force. Got Tameo, another very proactive threat. And then Bowmasters can really clog up the board while your Evasive Threat gets lethal damage through. So yeah, we're going to try it. Yeah, it looks like they should have had a turn 1 play here between Eldrazi Temple and Lotus Petal, but then they just pass. So that's a bit of a relief for us. We draw another land, which is like perfect. I was like, okay, that's really all I needed here. Having to decide between casting Tameo or having to surveil for another land would have been pretty rough, so I don't have to do that. Instead, I can just Slameo. I still have 2 Force Wills up, even though ideally I just pitch Force to Force and then get to hold on to Commit and Psychic Frog. They commit a Dismember, which I'm always happy to see because this matchup always comes down to a race, and I feel like I just need to deal as much damage as possible. If they're taking damage from their own spells, then that is really fine by me. Preferred even. Sowing Myco Spawn, sure. They go for Ayabugan, which means they probably have more Eldrazi's in hand, which makes sense. And now they have a 3/3 attacker, which is pretty scary. Alright, I draw another land, which is great. But there's no way I'm not just casting Psychic Frog and starting to get to work now. They're at 16, and I really need to make something happen. So their first line is to cast Glaring Fleshraker, which only casts 1. And then they cast an uncounterable Line Breaker, which is like, oh, shoot, okay. This is going to be a lot of damage, especially since the Fleshraker makes a spawn token. So starting to feel like pretty behind right now. They give the spawn token haste and +3/+0. So they can attack with it. And if I want to block with Psychic Frog and beat it in combat, I'd have to discard pretty much my whole hand, right? And I'd have to discard 3 cards, but then I'd be giving up on... So if I did make that play, I think I would have discarded both Force of Wills and the Bloodstained Mire. But I deem that too risky. I'd rather go to 12. And then I draw Opposition Agent, which is like, okay, that's good, but I'm already under too much pressure, even though it's only turn frickin' 3. They were on the play, so that's really all that matters. And I realize I have to win this game in like 2 turns. So I discard the extraneous land and Force of Will, and I give Psychic Frog flying, and I smash for 3. I draw yet another land, and I play it out so I can use Bowmasters and Consigned Memory to kind of fight and stay alive here. They draw Ancient Tomb, so I'm like, okay, phew, so far so good. They make the same play here, and then they swing out except for the Line Breaker. So I'm pretty sure I pointed the Bowmaster trigger at the spawn token just to take that off the battlefield, even though it would preclude me from, getting an army token. That's fine. And then I just take the block, or no, I don't take a block on Myco spawn because potentially there could be something bigger I need to block next turn if it's gassed up by the Line Breaker. I draw Nimble Obstructionist and I'm like, shoot, I don't know if I can just do, I don't know if I can do this in just 2 cards. I mean, 2 attacks, but I gotta try. So that absolutely involves me smashing for 5 this turn, I believe, right? So I'm pretty sure I discarded Opposition Agent as well. Maybe I didn't. Okay, no, I did not. Oh, right, no, this still makes sense. So yeah, that's card number 4. So if I want to try and survive and then hit for 9 next turn, my draw stuff would give me the 5th card. However, I'm not really surviving what they've got going on over there. This has trample, and they have like 2 pretty big creatures. If they just give one of them, I think if they give the Line Breaker the +3 bonus, yeah, I can't stop the damage from happening. And if I use Consigned Memory to counter that triggered ability, I'll be 1 damage short from dealing lethal with Psychic Frog. And there's no point in trying to control the board with the Plague Engineer or anything like that. I just need to count on them not having a Kozilek's Command at this point. It's really the only thing I can fight for. So Nimble Obstructionist, again, coming in absolutely clutch. This is the card that allows me to counter the Line Breaker trigger while also staying card neutral. They play at Ancient Tomb, and at that point I'm like, okay, I think I got the trophy. I think I did it. Because I'm able to cycle Nimble Obstructionist, counter this trigger, stay card neutral. It's even a Lightning Bolt. And then block Myco spawn, go to 2, untap, take a draw, put everything into Psychic Frog, and win the game? Yeah, that was it. Another great moment for Nimble Obstructionist, and that's why it's one of my favorite cards. So yeah, that was real close. Came real close there. One of the most wild matches against Eldrazi I've played in a long time. I mean, they all feel pretty wild, but that one in particular was crazy. So yeah, nice little trophy there. Things went pretty well, all things considered. And 5 really interesting matchups. I was joking, the only thing that was missing was a white deck. Faced colorless, blue, red, black, and I associate Nick Fit with green the most. So yeah, deck feels great. I love Infernal Reckoning in this meta, and didn't really get any good moments for Plague Engineer. I just threw that in after one match. I was seeing just like hundreds of Eldrazi spawn, and I was like, Plague Engineer would be really nice right now. And same with like against Nadu Elves, which is making a huge comeback. Um, yeah, there's a lot of good reasons to like Plague Engineer these days, but I'm still not sure if it's quite at the power level of the meta right now. But I'm gonna probably play with it a little bit more. I love the card. So yeah, thought I'd just make this quick little replay video. Uh, Thanks for sticking with me. Keep that Grixis stream alive. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep on rocking towards 1,000, and I'll see y'all next time.